Fiscal Court meeting February 24. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
It's Commissioner Parker.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Bartleman.
Here.
Judge Clymer.
Here. And Commissioner Bartleman, offer a prayer, please.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the blessings of this day. Thank you for the opportunity we have to gather together. We just ask you to be with us as we make decisions, Father, that will be best for this county and the people in it. Father, we pray for our first responders who are out there keeping us all safe. We just pray you continue to keep them safe, Father, as they work to perform their duties. We thankful to have school officials here tonight, students here. We're just so thankful for our schools and dedication to the teachers and administrators there, and for the hard work of the students to be successful and move to the future. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And stand and join us in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First we have on is for the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion about the consent agenda? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. And Madam Treasurer, budget transfer.
It is ordered that the necessary cash transfers in the amount of $50,000 be made in order to pay county bills and payroll approved February 24th, 2020.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Accounts payable.
It is ordered to approve the vouchers claim register from February 10th, 2020 to February 24th, 2020 to show county bills in the amount of $276,888.44 were paid.
So made.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. All right, and then we have a couple of awards to give tonight. We have, first of all, McCracken County Mustangs co-ed cheerleading team. They placed third in the nation. That's just outstanding. They've got two young, good-looking, vibrant cheerleaders, and then we've got Brent Hausman here with them. So if you'll come up.
You gotta be careful, one of them looks just like him.
Which one of you is a Hausman? Are you a Hausman? Yes, sir. Okay. Come right out here. Let's do this. Commissioner Bartleman, were you going to give a cheer?
I don't think so.
You're not? And so this is the McCracken County Court Award. It states, greetings, all communities present shall come. Know ye that in recognition of activities, efforts, and commitment benefiting our community, the McCracken County Fiscal Court presents its court award to McCracken County. You're not the academic team. McCracken County Mustangs co-ed cheerleading. We confer this honor with all rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto appertaining. And follow my directions there. So I want to congratulate you. It's quite an accomplishment. Yes, sir. Proud to represent our county well. Yes, sir. Thank you.
How was Disney?
It was awesome.
There you go. That's what I want to hear.
Judge, I think they are also willing to accept the award on behalf of the academic.
Well, we've got somebody else here too. They're all four of you if you want.
You're better in the camera than we are, so
Okay.
I think that is right.
Let's do this.
And so this award is for the McCracken County High School academic team. It states essentially the same. Greetings to all whom these presents shall come. Know ye that in recognition of activities, efforts, and commitment benefiting our community, the McCracken County District Court presents its court award to the McCracken County High School academic team. And so they, see, what do my notes say? They, what was it? Or
First and regional.
first and regional headed to the state. So won the regional Both the cheering and intelligence from McCracken County is out front, and so we appreciate that. Did y'all have anything you want to say?
Congratulations, guys. That's a great job.
Go team.
I just want to say how much we appreciate the work that's done by the administrators at the school and the superintendent. It's a hard job. It's not easy. I know the principal's job. It takes a lot of work. You're there every night, and a lot goes on out there. My granddaughter's a freshman out there, and on the academic team, just a freshman. And but we appreciate all the work that you do and the motivation that you have for the students and the success out there. A lot of hard work, and I know you lose a lot of sleep at nights, I'm sure, but it's appreciated.
We're working when you have such quality young adults as these to work for.
And so we've got the superintendent of McCracken Schools, Steve Carter, and then Matt Dobson, one of the house principals. So we appreciate you taking the time to come. And you got a ball game tonight here just shortly. Not you personally, daughter, but the kids do. So, yeah, the girls and the boys both play CCA tonight. So maybe we'll get out. What's that? 7:30 was it? 7:30. 7:30.
They went to over.
Okay, so let's get out by 7, please. Thank you, folks. If y'all want to stay, you're welcome. If you want to carry on, go ahead. Thank you.
Smart move is to say hi.
Take care. See you, Dr. Carter.
Let's see, where am I here? All right, and then we have on the agenda the Sports Tourism Commission, Jim Dudley.
I don't think he's here yet.
Where's Jim?
I don't think he's here yet.
Oh, I told him it'd probably be about 5:15, so he's probably coming in. We'll go on to the census. I did tell him it would probably take us 15 minutes. 2020 census got Mark Wattier here, Dr. Wattier, and Zana Renfro. Zana is, what we call you? You're our...
You mean in public or in private? I don't know.
McCracken
McCracken County Chairwoman for the 2020 census.
Yeah. And then Dr. Wattier, you're a regional...
I'm a partnership specialist with the United States Census Bureau, the Philadelphia Regional Census Center. I'm not supposed to say, but my duty station is Paducah, Kentucky.
Okay. All right. So we're interested in hearing how the census is shaping up and what we can do to help and all that.
It is coming upon us, and I guess just to give some background on it, as you are very aware, in the middle of last year, the judge and judge executive mayor appointed a committee to make sure that our community, McCracken County and the city of Paducah, were notified of the census and how important it is for everyone to participate. So the federal government's done a great job. Oh, I can't read that.
She can't read that.
Has done a great job in a lot of public advertisement and mailers and things. So actually McCracken County right now stands at 87%, which, as I understand, last year even is a better reporting than our final numbers were. So McCracken County and the city of Paducah is doing great for recruitment. And so you'll be beginning to see a lot of information coming in, or folks will be. We've been doing a traveling show, Mark really has, going to the Senior Citizen Center and different places, making everyone aware, because it's very important that everyone be counted. And even that hardest person to find to count are the ones that we're seeking out. But we've had some great partners this year. McCracken County Fiscal Court's been a good partner. City of Paducah's been a great partner. The library has done a fantastic job. The utility companies, the school systems, we've had a great response in networking and everyone communicating to make sure everybody reports. The thing that I need to make sure you all help us with tonight and challenge you all to do is make sure that any avenues you have, and I have a little packet that I'll be able to bring the judge, is that you help us get that message out and let people know how important these numbers are. These numbers are who we are for the next 10 years. So when you apply for grants or you have opportunities to someone says, what was the population? What was the average income? What's your unemployment? Well, unemployment changes, but different statistics like that that are important information to put into these applications and things. We need to make sure everyone's reported so we can have the truest amount of people represented from McCracken County. Mark?
You have the full presentation that I will be going through briefly. The process kicks off with an invitation letter. And the invitation letter comes to a residential address. And it comes from the director of the Census Bureau, Dr. Dillingham. It will also include in that letter this web link, my2020census.gov. That's where people will go to self-respond on the internet. You will have additional information on the letter so that you can log in. The process of deciding what to send out is determined in part by the American Community Survey, where we know where people have internet access. So largely in the county, when you see this in the presentation, the county's in the purple, which means they're going to be in what's called the Internet First group. They'll be invited to respond online or call in if they wish to. In the city, there are some census tracts where the internet access is lower, and they were categorized as internet choice. They will receive the questionnaire. They will receive the invitation to respond online, and they will also be able to call in if they wish to choose that as an option to respond. Now, we have something happening now with the library. The library is going to be a questionnaire assistance center for us, so that people that would go to the library and want to fill this out online, they can do so. We also have, the Census Bureau has a new operation, mobile questionnaire assistance, where they will have a live map where the response rate is, and if it's falling behind in a census tract, they will send a census taker there with an iPad that has internet access and could help people complete the questionnaire at that time. Now, a large part of this presentation is visual in that it has the social media component. It has the Facebook posts that many of our partners are doing. And if someone's in social media, they're saying that we're here. They know the census is coming. Should be no surprise. If you watch college level basketball, you're beginning to see on ESPN advertising, which is part of the national advertising campaign. That's going to do nothing but ramp up. If we look at what I've done with the schools in McCracken County, I've been to see 24 principals, and they've all committed in the school system to offer to their teachers the resources that are available from the census. They're also outreaching to their parents and guardians. They're also putting stuff on social media. We have the McCracken Public Schools, Tuca Public Schools, St. Mary System, CCA. They've all agreed to help support this. So you look at that, we have outreach to their network. We have, if you looked at your water bill, recruiting support from the water company. There's going to be messaging from Paducah Power and JPEG, so we have outreach to the county there. She mentioned our success with the recruiting. We're at, as she said, 87%. I'll pause there for any questions you may have.
We're already 10% higher than we was in the 2010 census?
Well, not exactly. I'm not sure what the recruiting numbers for 2010 were. We do know what our response rate from the invitation to the end of April was, and that information is contained in your packet. And what the Census Bureau would like to do is have people respond as soon as they get the invitation, so that as they track by census tract the response rate, they'll have an idea of the manpower they're going to need, the work they're going to need to do for the follow-up period, which will begin hiring in late April for work that begins in May and go on through July. And that's the door knockers. They're going to go say, you didn't respond, you didn't choose to call, internet, or mail back the questionnaire, we're going to come out and go door to door. And that's where the applicant pool, which we've been doing recruiting, comes in. so that the Census Bureau will then hire people to go out into the communities to the addresses for which there's not been a response. Yes, Commissioner.
So let's say I wanted to check this off tonight. There's a website I can log on to and do my part?
Not yet.
Okay.
About March 12th,
All right.
check your mailbox, and you get the letter from Dr. Dillingham, which has that web address, and then something else on it that you'll need. You can go log in, and you're in, you're out, your address is off the list. And as the more people do that, the more the self-response rate is higher, the less costly it will be to hire people to go door to door. And ideally, when you look at what the final response rate was, that is after the response of the census takers taking into account, we were around 80%. And so you're going to reach a ceiling effect. You're not going to be able to get to like 90-95% unless you're in a very small community. But that is a cost saver for taxpayers' dollars, cost saver for the census overall. It's the innovation this cycle. You can go to that website now, and it just invites you to return there once you have the invitation.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Whiter.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? Nope. We do have Jim Dudley walked in about a minute after we passed on him, so we've got Jim Dudley here, Sports Tourism Commission.
I don't think he come in, Judge.
Oh, is he not?
No.
Oh, I thought I saw him come in. Oh, okay.
Steve Connor and Jim Dudley look alike.
Okay. We've got Amanda Melton here, our coroner. Coroner Melton, come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So you all each have a booklet in front of you that I'll be referring to a few times during my 45-minute presentation. I was sworn in on January the 6th, 2019 for this new endeavor, and 3 out of the 4 of you embarked on this new endeavor as well. So maybe you can relate when I say that 2019 was rewarding and scary and challenging and presented a great learning curve. Early on, we all discussed a plan moving forward for the coroner's office, and I want to thank each of you for considering my request. My request specifically was to help me stabilize the office and to help me feel like I had your support, and I do, and I'm grateful for that. Likewise, I agreed that I would be as transparent as possible about our call volume, what's going on within our office, and statistics, which is what brings me here tonight. Oftentimes, and I've never quite understood this, but people in the community will say to me, well, it looks like you've been busy lately, or well, it looks like you haven't been busy lately. And for the longest time, I had no idea why an average citizen thought that they completely understood the call volume of the coroner's office. But finally, it's dawned on me. And it's because what they know of the coroner's office would be cases which end up in the media. So in other words, cases that end up on the front page of the newspaper or are reported at the 6 o'clock news. And that's just really not the way our office works. As a matter of fact, only a small percentage of our cases would be reported that way. And I'm sure you understand that it's because of the privacy and dignity that the individual deserves, and that's why they don't end up being reported in that way. So in January of 2019, and this has been an evolving type thing, but we began to track what we refer to as calls for service. Our total calls for service in 2019 was 1,484. Making up those totals are these categories: death investigations, cremation permits issued, hospital case reviews, and hospice case reviews. If any of you are familiar with KRS 72.025, it specifically mandates 19 circumstances in which a coroner must perform a postmortem examination, which we call a death investigation. Those totals for 2019 were 234. So just to clarify, that means that 234 times in 2019, either myself or a deputy promptly arrived at the scene of a death and began an investigation. What's important to know is that we are there for an undetermined amount of time, and there's a great deal of follow-up to each case. That also means that at least 234 times in 2019, our office issued a death certificate with the Office of Vital Statistics. You'll understand what I mean if someone erroneously believed that your job as commissioner began and ended at this meeting. You all know that that's not the case. You're busy, you're taking phone calls, you're returning emails, you're talking to the media, and you're diligently going about what you've been elected to do, which is to represent the community. And the same can be said of a coroner death investigation. You'll see that I've listed select manner of death totals on this page right here, which I believe is page 4. You'll also notice that they do not add up to 234, and that's because the last two circumstances of the 19, which I spoke of, which is on this page, and I'm going to summarize, but there's a category that basically I call unexplained, unwitnessed, and unexpected, and the majority of our death cases fall into those categories. And it would be true that the majority of those do end up eventually being determined as natural deaths. But these are actually the hardest and the most detailed cases for us to investigate because they are unexplained, unexpected, and unwitnessed. So while I'm standing here tonight, I need to tell you that there are groups of people in this community who have helped me tremendously in this first year. And I wouldn't have been anywhere near as successful in that office had I not had their help. So I need to thank both police agencies, Mercy Regional EMS, the ER staff at both hospitals, Emergency Management and Rescue, the Paducah Fire Department, and all of our volunteer agencies, and of course the Medical Examiner's Office. When someone's death falls under the unexplained, unwitnessed, and unexpected category, the initial investigation has to begin at the highest bar. So in other words, we have to rule out that a criminal act did not happen. And it has to work that way instead of from the bottom up. If we were to go there and assume that it was a natural death, then we, in some cases, would miss very important details. And there is a lot going on out there that is just not above the bar. You know, there are people out there who have motives for all kinds of criminal type activity. And so we began our death investigations at a very, very high bar. So once we rule out did a criminal act take place, then of course we have to work backward from that and try to figure out what actually did cause the death. This takes time and request for records and a thorough investigation and many interviews with witnesses and family members and doctors and all of those things. We can't certify a death certificate unless we go through all of those steps. There's no such thing as filling out a death certificate that says cardiac arrest or respiratory arrest. It has to be specific. And because I was a funeral director, I know that there are people on the receiving end of death certificates who they're anxiously awaiting that to see what actually is the cause of death. It's something we take very seriously. And anytime I'm actually certifying that, I kind of feel the weight of that because it gets registered with Office of Vital Statistics and it's a permanent record. But their assistance has been invaluable to me, and I think it's important for you all to know that the cooperation between these agencies and the camaraderie is something that we should all be very proud of. I know I certainly am. In addition, our office has granted 546 cremation permits. We've reviewed 170 hospital cases, and 534 hospice cases. And in your booklet, you'll see a brief description of why we are involved in each of those. A few other highlights that I'd like to briefly mention. Everyone in our department right now is certified as a death investigator, which means that we are registered with the Department of Justice and with Kentucky Vital Statistics. Also really proud to say that there was a missing person found in our jurisdiction in 2018. That person was identified in late 2019 and returned to his family in Louisville. This was only accomplished because of the hard work of several agencies. Detective Ryan Norman within the Sheriff's Office, the Coroner's Office, and a national agency called NAMUS. And we were able to connect several different dots of that case and return this gentleman back to his family. I've also been selected to represent West Kentucky on the statewide mass fatality team, which we really do need representation in this part of the state. We certainly are not immune to a mass fatality of some sort, a natural disaster of some sort. And what's great, in my opinion, for me to be affiliated with this team is we'll have put in the hard work and they will be ready and willing to come help us at that time should I call on them. So I'm looking forward to becoming more involved with them. And out of a sad necessity, I've begun what's called a Safe Sleep campaign. Unfortunately, there are many co-sleeping deaths which have occurred in our area within the past 3 years. The numbers are actually staggering, and it's an accidental and preventable death of our small infants. So I have begun a Safe Sleep campaign that I'm taking to health fairs and basically any place that there's an accumulated group of folks who could learn from this. This coming Friday at the public library, there is a free Narcan training for our community. I kind of spearheaded that because there was a situation in Lyon County recently where in the span of 4 days they had 4 overdoses, and that is very likely to happen in our community at some point. And with several of the prevention agencies here in town, we are going to provide free Narcan and free Narcan training so that people can be prepared to step in and hopefully prevent needless deaths. Now next year, and I know you all are going to anxiously await this, but I have a new records program that we implemented in April of 2019. So I'll have pie charts and graphs, and if you can't wait until next year, come to my office and I'll just go ahead and print those out for you. I know the excitement is overwhelming, but I actually am excited about it because we'll be able to, with that program, extrapolate all kinds of information. It'll be more detailed next year, but we didn't start that until April of this year, and it's an ever-evolving situation when you take over a brand new office, and you learn and backtrack and start over and revise, and that's what we've done. But anyway, I think we have a really good foothold on this, and just wanted to kind of present this to you. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer, but this is my attempt at letting you know what's going on with us. You're welcome.
What percentage of the cases would you say come from outside McCracken County where somebody's brought to the hospital, or is it a high percentage?
Mm-hmm. It is. It is. We're unique in that we have 2 regional hospitals. We have many skilled care facilities here, and Paducah is really the medical center for the rural community and the other counties that we serve. It's very common for an incident to happen in another county and them completely bypass their rural hospital there, who's not equipped, honestly, in a lot of cases, to provide the best care. So they would rather jump on the interstate and rush here and get a much higher level of care. So we do investigate many cases that originated in another county, which presents its own set of special circumstances because in some cases maybe we're not as familiar with the investigative team in that county. That initial site is outside of our jurisdiction, so it involves the the diligent of work and coordination between counties. And it takes actually longer, I would say, to investigate those cases. But I can't put my finger exactly on how many, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was at least 25%.
On the cremation permits, do you just do those that are handled by funeral homes in McCracken County, or does it go beyond McCracken County where you do cremation permits?
The way this works in Kentucky is that if the death occurred in McCracken County, it doesn't matter which funeral home they go to or even where they're from. If the death occurred in McCracken County, then the permit has to be issued out of McCracken County from the coroner's office.
So even if they were to funeral home out of Louisville, if they died here, you have to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
And there are a couple reasons for that, but one of the main reasons makes perfect sense, and that is that the coroner's office would know if there's an ongoing investigation with that case. And that would be our chance to interrupt that cremation and hold off on that. So that's why they all go through our office. And that's not a mere signature either. It could be, but I don't see it that way. It's a permanent disposal of someone, and I see that as a very high threshold. So I usually make a few phone calls and just make sure that everything is as represented.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, now we have Jim Dudley with the Sports Tourism Commission. And come on up, Jim.
How are you guys?
We moved a little bit faster than what we thought we might. So we're just anxious to hear how the sports tourism, I guess, as the background, the Sports Tourism Commission was created because of Commissioner Jones finding the money to use for sports tourism from a county CVB, and so then the Sports Commission per Kentucky statute was appointed, recommendations made from several entities. You were appointed, and I guess did your group elect you as chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So I'm chair of the commission.
Yeah, and so y'all have been going about, you started collecting some money, doing some research on where the best bang for our buck is and that sort of thing, and so we're anxious to hear where
we're
you
at.
are.
Yeah, that's correct. So we got the Pinnacle report kind of mid to end of January that I believe everybody's seen at this point. Gave some really good data as what McCracken County and Paducah need and where we're headed with that. We're currently in contract negotiations with our design team and architect as far as so we can kind of start the process as where they'll lead us to our next step. We've you know, kind of like you guys saying, we've seen that data. We've talked internally. One thing we've done here recently is we've joined Team Kentucky and Sports ETA. Team Kentucky is a group of CVBs around the state that work together to kind of help different areas get different sports in their area. And really, it's a really good network of minds just to put together to say, hey, this will work here, or here's what you need. And it's been a good group and already partnered with them. Mary Hammonds with the CVB has been working with them for a couple of years already, so we've got a good relationship there. Sports ETA is something we're getting ready to join as well. That first meeting is in Kansas City in April, and that's a unique situation where we'll go and actually get to meet with promoters already and kind of get an idea of what they want as from a sports tourism from our area. So it's really good, is even though we may not have anything to sell yet, it's a great way to go ahead and start building those relationships, to start developing networking friends, to say, hey, you know, we may have that in a couple of years. What do you need? What are you looking for? What, you know, how many hotels, how many rooms do you have to have, and stuff like that. So we're excited about those relationships we're building. It's a good start for us. It's a great way, again, just to get our name out there in Paducah, McCracken County, and let people know, hey, we're about to be on the map as far as sports tourism and a destination you're going to want to come to. Anything specific you guys are? That's kind of a brief summary, I know. So
timelines on architectural design and knowing which way we're heading with soccer, baseball, softball.
So once
All
we get
three?
our contract negotiations done and we finalize that, we will meet with Hitchcock and Pros. Those are two companies within that design team. Of course, it was a package of about 5 companies. We will start analyzing potential sites, sports. If you remember that Pinnacle report suggested using multi-surface fields. Depending on who you talk to, depends on whether that's the best way to go. Some people say, hey, that's great. You can do multiple sports. Some people have cautioned us and said, well, if you do multi-surface field, you can only do one tournament a weekend. So, if you have soccer and softball wanting to do a tournament at the same time and you got multi-surface fields and you can only do one of them, well, then we lose the ability to do that. So we'll probably have a better timeline once we get that contract done and we can start meeting with Hitchcock and Pros and developing those needs and what this area can hold. One thing we're doing as a commission, and I left this part out, was, last meeting we started talking about our values and what's that look like. And we have to have core values to really make all of our decisions. And with those core values is how we're going to decide what to go with. So, for instance, if tourism and heads and beds is our key value, and that's the key to our commission, everything we do has got to be making sure we're going to bring people here for overnight, because that's how we increase our tax, that's how we keep the sports commission debt down. Maintain anything we may build or purchase, and it just allows us to kind of keep this thing running like a fine-tuned machine, and that's our goal. So we're building values right now. So if, let's say we build a soccer complex, we can come back to you guys and say, hey, here's our values, and here's why we chose a soccer complex, and this is why it's the right idea. Or if we say, hey, let's look at volleyball courts, we can come back and make those same decisions. We always want to have the data and the core values to lean on as far as the sports commission and why that's going to be the best decision for us.
Has this commission got anything to do with volleyball and basketball courts in the convention center?
Yeah, so we have been working with Michelle to try to figure out the best way to do that. Michelle Campbell is the director of the convention center, sorry. So we have been talking. She came to our meeting and discussed with us. At some point, we met with them to kind of give you an idea of where that was. Let me pull my notes up. So we met with them. Their original plan is March Madness tournaments, as you guys know, is getting ready to kick off. They use those courts for that weekend that they're there. So like Dayton, Ohio always does the first weekend. When they're done in Dayton, they sell those courts off and at a discounted price. So we were going to try to use those. That was our first option. We found out though that those are only 60 foot wide, and to do volleyball and basketball, you've got to have a wider floor to cover the volleyball. So it took those away. So now what we got to do is we will put out a bid process. We're hoping pretty soon. Collect bids for courts that allow us to do 4 basketball courts in the Convention Center Expo and 8 volleyball courts. We've been told 4 basketball courts will bring in 55 travel teams. And 8 volleyball courts will bring in a pretty good sized tournament for volleyball as well.
Now, are we holding money in escrow for those courts, or I know we're giving 1%?
Mm-hmm.
Is that money being held, or
the 1% going to the Sports Tourism Commission, or the 1% going to the Convention Center?
The 1% we're giving Convention Center.
I can't answer for what they're doing with that. We have not committed to pay for everything that goes into that. So what we're looking at doing a bid process for is the 4 courts. As far as the netting, the goals, scoreboards, all of that, they have not asked us to purchase that, and we haven't committed to purchase that. The only thing that we voted on was to look at purchasing courts.
Do we have any kind of idea on price for that, or?
We have a couple of estimates, but what we've been told is because those are so customizable, that there's really not a good way to get a good fair market estimate, because the 3 companies that do it just don't really give estimates. I mean, they've given us a ballpark figure. I don't know if it's fair to state that figure because it could be way less or way more, and we don't know that fact until we put that bid process out and we see what those actual bids come back to. And we would have had that bid out earlier, but once we found out the March Madness courts won't work, they had to kind of redesign the specs and extend that floor out to make sure we can get the volleyball in there too.
Is your perception that generally the first item that you're going to try and go after is the indoor outfitting the expo for indoor sports?
I would say that looks like the low-hanging fruit for us because it's there. We already have the interest. We've had 3 basketball promoters come to us already, or come to the convention center about potentially doing tournaments there. And we haven't even gotten into the volleyball piece of it, and we know that's a big industry, and on that Pinnacle report is one of the top 5 growing sports in Kentucky. So we see that as definitely a potential low-hanging fruit. So as long as everything makes sense, as long as the cost is there, as long as we've got the commitment from convention center to use those courts, that's I'd say yes, that's probably gonna be one of the first things we go after, just because it's there, and we think it's something that can be a win-win for everybody.
We should have a decent return on our investment then, right?
That's the goal. We'll see. Anything with sports tourism's hit or miss. Those tournaments are, it's going to come down to how the convention center runs those, and obviously putting those floors in brings its people in. Our goal is not necessarily to run the convention center, but if we've got estimate budget for this, let's increase that. That allows us to have more money to put into another sport, to maintain it, to do whatever we need to do to help this community grow from that area. But again, once we have those core values, if making a profit on one of those is one of the core values, then yeah, we're gonna have to figure out a way to do that. But if anybody that's been in the sports industry knows, that's a tough pill to swallow for sure.
So, I guess at some point this year, we're to approve your budget. Is there? I remember that being in our ordinance.
In the statute, yes.
So yeah, it'd be good if you guys could approve that.
Yeah. I just don't want to fly past that, because I know that's something we struggle with. So whenever the appropriate time is, but I think it probably is important to keep in perspective what we could and couldn't do, because there are some obvious parameters. We've been bringing in about $80,000 a month, right?
Yeah, I'd say the first 3 months you could probably say that's pretty close to correct.
And if we bring in $1 million a year, you're going to need some of that $1 million for operating.
Correct. Yeah. So anything, one thing the convention center, their plan is right now that we're not paying for maintenance or anything like that. Those courts are going to be county property, and they're going to maintain them and keep them up. So unless we work out a different deal on that contract, once we start working on the contract piece of that, that's going to be a one-time purchase, and then it's up to them to fully utilize those and to grow that industry.
I think, couldn't we inform the public that essentially with $1 million a year, and you're going to need some of that for operating, the range of what you can build from the outset is around $6 million. Would that be safe?
As far as just based off what we'll have, or?
Right. Not counting money you'll make, but just from.
Yeah, I don't know that it'd be responsible to say, hey, this is what we're going to work with, because we don't know what we're building, correct? So until we know that, I think one thing we have to be careful of is we brought in a gentleman to do some training for the Sports Commission, and the one thing he said is, you build it too big and you're not going to be able to fill it. You build it too small and it's going to become a glorified rec league.
Sure.
So again, I don't want to answer that because I don't have the exact numbers. I understand what you're saying there, but
I just don't want to create a incorrect perception that we somehow have found funding and we can match what Elizabethtown has done. That what they did cost $29 million. There's no way this.
Yeah, I'd tell you it's a fair assessment. I don't think anybody on the Sports Commission is planning on spending $30 million, and that's never been talked about. So, I definitely don't see anything that large if that's what we're trying to get out of it.
I guess that's just what I wanted to make sure that when we're watching this again,
we want to be as fiscally responsible as we can. We don't want to. Your commissioners on this commission have no desire to build something that our names are attached to, that 10 years down the road is a glorified parking lot that everybody's going to look at and say, why do we build it? We want something that's going to thrive in this community, that's going to grow tourism, that us, you guys, everybody in this county is going to be proud of. And people drive by E-Town, they say, man, look at this great sports park. Well, we don't have to put in a $30 million sports park to be everybody to be proud of it. We are in a central location between Nashville and St. Louis and Chicago, and we can bring in 4 or 5 different states and have really, really good sized tournaments as long as we build the right facilities. And no, it's not I don't foresee that being a $30 million project. Now, could we? I'm sure if we really wanted to create everything and have the goal of ballparks, we could get to $30 million pretty quickly. But I don't foresee that being a goal at all. We want to stay fiscal responsible, and because again, meeting with the E-Town folks, that $30 million ballpark you're talking about costs $2.3 million in maintenance a year.
Right.
We don't have that. And I don't think you guys have that either. So
we don't.
Elizabethtown doesn't either.
And guess what? That's the big factor people don't pay attention to is E-Town doesn't either.
Right.
They've had to create that other ways, and that's what we are aware of as well. It does us no good to build something that we can't afford to run, because ballparks and sportsplexes typically do not make money. I mean, if you can get one to break even, you're doing good, but we've got to be somewhere along that line where we can afford to maintain it. It's a tourist attraction. It brings people in. And if we can increase that heads and beds and increase our budget from $1 million to $2 million, then great. Guess what? That gives us more room to work with. But we're definitely very, very aware of that, and we're not trying to put something in here we can't afford.
And I guess that's what I want to make sure. We've asked you to be conservative. You guys are being conservative in what you can go. But you did say something pretty important, that if we go too small, then we just become a glorified rec league.
That's correct.
And by that, I guess, could you explain what you mean by that?
So, for instance, I coach travel softball. If we go to a place that has only a couple little fields, I'll say 4 is a number out there I'll throw out there, you can get 12 teams and you can have your tournament in one day. Well, anybody within 4 hours is going to drive there, play their games, and drive home. Well, that doesn't put heads in our beds, and a lot of times that doesn't put money in the restaurants, because I'm going to bring a cooler, I'm going to eat concession stand, I'm going to go home. So maybe they fill their car up before they leave, but you're not getting anything as far as McCracken County. Whereas if you build something, for instance, we're playing in a tournament up near Evansville. It's got 120 teams. It's a 3-day tournament. So guess what? We don't know if we're going to play late Friday night or early Saturday morning. So we're going to have hotel rooms for 2 nights. So I've got 10 players with 1 to 2 hotel rooms for 3 nights. We're going to eat food there every night. We're going to, we may go to different restaurants. We may go to, if there's a Dave & Buster's, I don't know what's up in Evansville, but, we're going to spend money up there, and we're going to bring in tourism money. So you build it too small, they're just going to come for the day and go home. And that doesn't help us out any as far as tourism in Paducah. Hopefully they go shop. Hopefully they go to restaurants. But I can tell you, I played in tournaments where I never left the ball field and filled my car before I left Paducah and got back home and didn't spend a dime there.
I think there was a little confusion last week in the media about whether the county had assumed the role of, I guess, all sports fields, and that's. I didn't feel that was an accurate representation. Does the Sports Commission feel that it's taken on the role of creating sports fields for the city and the county?
So,
the answer is no.
The answer would be no. We are, again, when we start rating core values, if one of our core values is to take care of local kids, then that's a different conversation, right? I've got to come here and have a different conversation with you guys too, because if I build local fields, how's that going to bring in tourism, which is paying for those local fields? So there's that fine line we've got to figure out as a commission. So no, that's not our goal. Our goal was to increase sports tourism in McCracken County. If that's building soccer fields and softball and baseball fields, we want local kids to be able to use it, but it's got to be here to bring in. It's got to be to increase sports tourism. I mean, that's what our mission was from the start of this thing being created.
And that's what the statute says.
That is correct. Yeah.
These funds.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'm done.
Has there been any conversation with Jackson Purchase about acquiring any of the sportsplex equipment, or are you better off just buying new that's built to fit into the expo center? There
has been conversations, and we're still in those conversations as far as what's usable and what's not usable. I don't know that I can state what's usable and what's not usable with 100% confidence yet, but we are in those talks to. Jackson Purchase wants to save anything they can and put anything they can back into the community. We've got to do some research as far as the main thing we got to do research in is the basketball floors. 2 of them are hardwood, and that indoor soccer field. So soccer field's glued down. The 2 basketball courts, we're not sure if they're real basketball courts or if they were just wood nailed down and then sanded and polished and turned into basketball courts. Are those reusable? We're still checking into that. So I can't say yes or no on that yet, but we'll figure that out pretty quick. Anything we can use, we will, because again, that saves money.
Has there been a discussion having any kind of a private-public partnership in any of that? I know there's some fields down in where is it, Mississippi and stuff that's got some private investment in it. Has there been any discussion of that?
I think that will be down the road once we know what we're building and where we're building. Part of that could also be the potential of hiring a management company to manage anything we may potentially build. So, some management companies out there that say, hey, we'll manage the ballpark, and they handle a lot of that private stuff. So I can't imagine this community with the needs of the different sports that we're looking at. There won't be some private, but I can't tell you who's in that yet because we don't know what we're building, right? So still we know what we're building and where. But yes, again, anything we can to save money, we're going to do, and private partnerships would be huge for that.
I think we need to make it clear too. You're not involved in any indoor aquatic centers, are you?
I'm not involved in any indoor aquatic center.
I knew the answer to that, but I just want to make sure that.
I mean, I coach basketball and softball, so I don't have any more hats to wear at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's important every time we get an opportunity to make sure, because the public misconception a lot of times is just what you're saying. In fact, I interviewed with WPSD TV this evening to dissuade the thought that the county was in with the city on building an aquatic center. That's out there because people don't really understand the difference, and so make it clear with them, make it clear here again. County has no intention, and we're not involved and will not be involved in an indoor aquatic center that's being proposed or looked into by the city. The other thing I think is really important is for the public to understand that this is designed to be funded by the tourism money that's being coming from people who are staying in our motels.
Correct. And I think that's a very important part, Judge, is we're not using any county taxpayer money right now. It's people staying in our hotels that are traveling through Paducah. So unless a county resident staying in the hotel, that tax money's coming from tourism right now, and that's very important to note that, our goal is to use every dime of that for this industry and to grow it. Because again, if we can grow tourism through sports, we all know what that does for the county. I mean, that helps everybody.
Then what you alluded to earlier was the fact that it's that current heads and beds tax that's funding this now. The beauty of it is, to me, the more we develop and the nicer quality fields and courts and whatnot, draw more tourism, creates more people in the beds, creates more tax, creates more ability to maintain and maybe spruce up and add to what we do over the years. And so
Correct.
It's really a self-funding, renewable kind of thing.
And again, local kids are going to get to use the facilities. It's definitely going to benefit them as well. I mean, I've got a travel softball team. If we have softball tournaments here, my parents are going to love to play here. So I mean, it's going to be something that the whole community can get behind, can sponsor, can build on, and be proud of for sure.
Well, I met with Jim a few days ago, and we had a good talk, and I'm really enthusiastic and confident that this thing's going to really be a dynamic addition to the county. You guys are doing, and ladies, doing a great job, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, and
Appreciate it all the time. I mean, he's volunteer, and so we're getting a lot of bang for that buck.
Yeah,
I bet you'd agree with that.
Yeah, we've got a great team, and they're all putting in a ton of time and putting in a lot of work, and I really want to brag on them because something like this is very easy to get excited about. And what do you do when you get excited? You try to run before you can walk, and we've done a really good job of slowing each other down. Chris is here from our team, and it's just been a great job of slowing down and saying, hey, we've got to be smart with these decisions, you alluded to $6 million, and that's probably a minimum for something you're going to build. Well, guess what? You can't, we can't come in here and build something for $6 million and come back to you guys in 10 years and be like, hey, we screwed up. We're going to need another $6 million. Yeah. So
you got to get this right.
We have to get it right. And man, you're talking about. That's the one thing I bet every meeting we talk about is we've got to make sure that we make each decision with the best data, the best decision we can make. Some great minds on that commission. You guys did a really good job of picking those people, and they're really helping lead that project, and we're excited about it. We've got a great group that we think is going to really do a good job, make McCracken County and Paducah proud. So,
good. I appreciate your attitude that you're going to make sure of the value of everything too, and not, as you said, it's probably easy to be excited and let's just go build 10 ball fields and move on. You're
correct.
Making sure that what you have.
And I'm a big analytic person, so we love data. So we love seeing data. We want to back it up. I know at least a couple of times I've seen the data and been like, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that. That's why you have data. You use that data, you talk to the experts, and then go from there. And all the tournament directors I talk to, they've been itching to get something in Paducah. They want to come to Paducah. They know it's a destination. They know it's a great site, and they know they can get some really good teams here. And again, let's get something here that people are proud of and grow that sports industry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Commissioner Jones, did you want to make a motion to add something to the?
I do. I'd like to ask, add a discussion of Sprocket and an amendment to a memorandum of understanding that I'd like to propose tonight. And I've asked Ms. Monica Belak to be here to help explain it.
Come on up, Monica. Come on up, Monica.
So you want to go ahead and make the motion and have her explain it?
You made the motion, or do you have a motion?
Yeah. All right. I move that the memorandum of understanding executed on August 19th, 2019 between Sprocket, Inc. and McCracken County Fiscal Court for the build-out of a co-working and business startup incubator within McCracken County, Kentucky be amended as follows. Paragraph 1. The Fiscal Court hereby approves the footprint amount of built-out space at anywhere between a minimum of 8,800 square feet to a maximum of 15,000 square feet, contingent upon the best engineered optimized feet per budget possible that results from the design/build process. Number 2, the memorandum of understanding as amended will remain in full effect until the completion of the build-out process as agreed with the Kentucky Economic Development and Finance Authority.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
Is this the entire agreement?
No, this is the amendment to the agreement. We approved the agreement back on August 19th, 2019.
Correct. The only change is the square foot range. As we started to get into looking at working with our partners on that, we want the flexibility to have it larger if needed. And so KEDFA requires that we not say approximate. We actually have to put the approximate 2 numbers. So we have to say from 8,800 to approximately 15,000.
Our original memorandum gave an approximate.
Originally, it just said approximately 8,800, and now it will say a minimum of to a maximum of.
And the cost stays the same. It's not
correct.
A cost. You're not asking for any money. Okay.
Correct.
What happens if it comes out that 8,800 is going to cost more than what's been budgeted?
It's a design build process, so there's a cap. It can't. The design has to match the amount.
What if the amount of money we have will only do 7,500? What happens? Are we obligated to do 8,800, and do we have to come up with more money if we?
No. So the design is actually, we've designed this for the price at about $13,000 for the money that we have, the 1.2 million. So it's set, but they want us to have a more expansive language in our MOU with you. So this, we hope to meet with them this month, so actually Thursday, and they told us about the language change at about 3 p.m. today. So that's why I'm rushing in to tell you, sorry, but it's a minor detail, but they're like, we need a language change. Instead of saying approximately 8,800, they want a minimum and a maximum. It will not go past the amount that we've budgeted.
Is that in the agreement? Is that in our memorandum of understanding?
Yes. There's no change with what we're asking from you.
And I think the city plans to put this on their agenda.
That's correct, and so
tomorrow.
the library, yes.
I just want to make sure that we're not, again, maybe I don't.
Right,
maybe
there's
I'm being
no cost
dense.
differential. It's not about cost. The whole, the confusion with the KEDFA board was literally on the fact that we said approximately 8,800 instead of giving a range.
It sounds like, if I understood you correctly, is we're actually going to get more square footage than what we
Correct.
bargained for.
Correct.
And the state is saying we
kind
want
of
to make
started to
sure
look at
that
it.
everyone understands you're going to have a bigger square footage, even though it's at the same price.
That is absolutely correct. We found some ways to maximize some space that was already built out. So we actually are going to get to take space that's practically built and incorporate that into our footprint. And so the cost is the same, but they want to make sure we let you guys know that the space size would be different,
Yeah. And
potentially.
we kind of jumped into this. So we're committing 200, the library's committing 200, the city's 200.
That's correct.
And KEFTA is matching that
With
600.
And then we've also raised a secondary surety. We had to also go in and get surety for all of this. So everything is covered and everything is
Has the county attorney looked over this? I mean, it seems, I agree, it seems to be pretty simple. I just want to make sure there's not something in there that.
I'm not review that.
Okay.
It came in.
Yeah, I'll show you. I'm sorry. It did. It came in very late, and they shot it. We've been meeting with them monthly, and we had our meeting in November. We're just trying to push this over the line, and there's these small details that we really want to make sure we have clear with everybody.
Steve, are you okay with what this is? Does it look okay to you?
I stopped at 4:30.
Pardon me?
So, as I understand it, this will require us to alter our document. And why that's important to the state, I have no idea why the state even cares what our memorandum of understanding says, but evidently it does. And all that will change is in our agreement, we said money will be used for a building that filled out approximately 8,800 square feet. So we'll edit our document, stick it in front of the judge's son, or we'll prepare some amendment that recognizes it may be bigger than 8,800 square feet, but won't be bigger than 15,000 square feet. It doesn't change the money.
Doesn't change the money.
And this isn't anything we were wanting to do. This wasn't anything Sprocket was asking to do. This was KEDFA reviewing the documents, and they requested that these changes be made. The city will have to do the same. The library will have to do the same.
This is correct.
And the reason for the last minuteness of this is because there's a KEDFA meeting this week.
Correct.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? All right, that carries.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's see. Now, we had an old business. Is there a motion to remove from the table the lease agreement with Teletech?
So moved.
Got a
Second.
Motion and a second. So, discussion on that?
I'd like to leave it on the table. I did have an opportunity to discuss this matter with the city manager this morning, and he is interested in a conversation about this. And I think it'd be good if we left it on the table.
You think it should stay on the table?
I think it should stay on the table. I think he's more interested in having the conversation if it's on the table. If we approve it, he'll be less interested in having a conversation.
Well, no, it's been tabled 4 or 5 times, I think. It's been on since December. This is the Teletech. Teletech's in the building. The city's approved the lease. The county has not.
Actually, I don't think the city has approved it. I think they are.
The city manager today said they haven't even scheduled it yet.
Oh, I thought they had.
But they are paying rent?
We started paying rent effective October 1st.
That's the main thing.
Or might even be September 1st.
I'm good then to put this table again. If that's what we need to do.
Practice.
Well, I think there actually is a purpose in doing it, and we'll see what happens this time. But I got the impression that if we ask, we'll get our meeting and be able to talk about it.
Okay. All right, so the motion then is to table.
So say we have a motion and a
Leave it on
second
the
to take it
table.
off. Now we have a motion to put it back on the table.
I'll withdraw my motion
Yeah.
to take it off the table.
And I'll make a motion, we put it back.
You have to withdraw your second.
Withdraw
I'll
your
withdraw
second.
my
We'll be
second.
good.
Okay, all right, so we'll leave it on the table.
We don't need to vote again, do we? Because it's on the table, we don't have to vote again, right?
Yeah, leave it.
Then we got some court orders, so we're not on the consent agenda. Madam Clerk?
It is ordered that a bid opening was held on Friday, February the 14th, 2020 at 10 o'clock in the McCracken County Judge Executive's office. Said bid opening was for the final phase of the jail lock repairs at the McCracken County Jail. One bid was received, that being from Cornerstone Detention Products in the amount of $340,222. Said bid was taken under advisement.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Carries.
It is ordered that a bid for the final phase of the jail lock repairs at the McCracken County Jail is awarded to Cornerstone Detention Products in the amount of $240,222.
So made.
Second.
Is this the same company that did the first phase?
The first two phases.
Yeah.
And is this within estimates of?
Yes, it was right on. The actual construction part, we estimated at 325. The construction is 320. The other 20,000 has to do with the integration between the guy that designs and operates the control panel has to be paid to make the doors work.
All right, any more discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
Okay, we're going to go back and pick up.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, we're going to go back and get it. Okay, is ordered that the first reading of ordinance 2020-02 budget amendment, which was held on February 10, 2020, is hereby rescinded.
So moved.
Second.
Why are we rescinding it?
We're having to make changes to it.
Okay.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
Okay, it is ordered that a bid opening was held on Friday, February 14, 2020 at 11 o'clock in the McCracken County Judge Executive's office. Said bid opening was for the leasing of McCracken County property located at 621 Washington, Suite 1, the Courthouse Annex. One bid was received, that being from Mark Bryant. The proposal was a one-year lease with 4 renewals for a total of 5 years. The proposal for the years 1 and 2 are $11.33 per square foot, $10,200 per year, and $12 per square foot, or $10,800 per year for the years 3 through 5. Said bid was taken under advisement.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion on that? That's the front part of the building that the PBA occupies the back, and it's been sitting vacant for, I don't know, several years, I guess. I don't know how long. I don't know when somebody was last in there.
I think it was court designated worker was probably the last one.
Was it? Okay. Any other discussion?
Glad you generated it into money.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
It is ordered that the McCracken County Sheriff's Office held a bid opening on February 10, 2020 for the purchase of a 2020 Ram 1500 Bighorn Lone Star Crew 4x4. Bids were received from Linwood Motors of Paducah and Moran Dodge Incorporated of Sikeston, Missouri. Bids were taken under advisement.
So made.
Second?
Second.
Second. Discussion? None? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, no. All right, carries.
It is ordered that the bid for the purchase of the 2020 Ram 1500 Bighorn Lone Star Crew 4x4 is awarded to Linwood Motors of Paducah in the amount of $34,526. This vehicle is being purchased with city drug money.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would like to make a comment that we done our due diligence on this, and this was done before we asked for the 6-month moratorium on vehicles. So.
Okay.
The sheriff's here. Can he talk about why this vehicle?
Glad to answer any question that you have. Whatever question you have, I'll be glad to address.
I just was curious why it's a Dodge Ram and not.
That's the vehicle that we chose.
Pardon me?
That's the vehicle that was chosen. I mean, part of the purpose in this is the vehicle that we're replacing has been in our drug division now for almost 2 years. I can articulate all kinds of safety reasons to both the public, the officer, informants, as many of our drug investigations are covert, and I'm not so sure that we've not already blown that with all this, discussion. I'm very transparent, always been transparent with you. Any of you all had a discussion with you this weekend, sir, concerning this purchase. I thought I'd answered all questions. It's not a matter of transparency. It's a matter of we've got one of the most effective, efficient drug divisions compared to anywhere. I would compare them to anywhere. We have, since 2010, tried to help. We've got very limited resources to try to help offset costs to taxpayers. One of those ways that we do have a way to offset costs to the taxpayers is through our drug fund. And we have spent about $750,000 out of our drug fund since 2010 to help buy things like vehicles to help offset costs to the county residents. This last year, I sustained about a $10,000 cut to my budget for our special deputy program. There was needed equipment that I supplied out of our drug fund. It's not an uncommon thing. To my knowledge, and from speaking to Sheriff Hayden, this is the first time that a purchase from the drug fund has been specifically questioned. So we did this out of an abundance of caution. We did this out of an effort to be transparent. And to be quite honest, I feel like that I'm being scrutinized over a purchase that we're actually being able to forego cost to the taxpayers by paying it through drug seized monies. But I would be happy to answer any question that you have. I've got a list of articulation here that I'm prepared to talk about if there's any further question or a need to discuss it.
I guess the only reason the questions were arose, I wanted you to explain to the public, because 2 weeks ago we said there was going to be a freeze on vehicles, and now we're buying a vehicle. And I'm not, I think you make some good points, and I just want to make sure the public understands why.
This is not coming out of the general fund.
We didn't approve a freeze.
I know, but there was discussion of that.
Oh, okay.
And clearly this was, and I spoke to Commissioner Parker that very night, so that no one thought that I tried to, side door anyone. This was long in the process before that was ever brought up. The bid opening was at 2 o'clock. Right. So obviously there's a process even prior to that.
And I think the bids were before that. It was in January
2 o'clock
31st,
on the same day.
Like that, so. Again, we do have a good drug enforcement division. You've got a good officer in charge of that, and I just want to make sure the public understood why we're doing this. And I support your drug operation and the job you've done. And
we've tried to be very conservative. I know since I've been sheriff, we have come in under one of our budget allotted monies from the county, and part of our abilities in being able to do that is to be able to supplement some of our purchases, in which we try to do along the way. Like I said, averaging about $75,000 a year, that we try to help offset those costs to give those monies back. So it's just a way that we're trying to work with you all, as I believe and trust that you'll continue to try to work with me to provide the very best that we can for our community.
And will this free up a vehicle for the road division? It will, won't it?
Well, it ultimately will just kind of have a domino effect. We'll be able to reshuffle a vehicle inter-department so that we're able to, again, maintain the covert operations that are oftentimes needed in the drug work.
I think there's no doubt you need new vehicles. I think I looked through the list of vehicles you have, and there's 7 or 8 that have over 150,000 miles on them, and
Yeah, we've got 15 right now that are in service, and we've got, I don't have an exact count, but don't quote me on this, I think around 5 vehicles that are currently in service that has been purchased with drug seize money, again, to continue to try to help offset this cost to the taxpayers. But I know we've got 15 right now that's 100,000 miles or higher.
Yeah. Again, I'm not opposed to it. I just wanted to ask some questions about it, but I'm not opposed to it.
Any other discussion?
No, thank you, Matt.
All right.
All right. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. We got no board appointments, no ordinances, no resolutions, no need for an executive session, no other.
I do have a question of one thing, if, and you might be able to help me, Commissioner Ball. The 1% we're giving the convention center, I was under the understanding that was going to be used for volleyball and basketball. Do you know if it's being held or if it's in escrow? Or?
It's being used to pay bills. They've had an issue, I don't have all the numbers, but they have an issue with power costs because they have the power costs have been out of sight because they have a demand charge, and if it goes above a certain amount, the demand charge kicks in, and there's been a high utility bills over there. And I think some of the money is being used to pay those high utility bills. And I don't have the numbers, but that's part of what it's been used for.
Can we, I don't know, have we got, I know you're on their board, can we get a copy of their financials, or can we get them to come speak to us? Or
I think that'd be a good idea. I think we've suggested that. Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea for them to come and update how the new management contract's working and to go over some of those financial issues and to bring their budget. I think this is the time of year when they need to bring the budget to us to look at.
Yeah, 'cause I really thought we were using that money for those courts. And, I want to make sure we're doing the right thing.
We don't approve their budget?
I think I'm not sure if we do or not. I don't know. We never have, but it wouldn't be a bad idea.
But we give them like $60,000 a month.
The initial decision of the board was that the money from the extra 1% would be held until they get a good feel for how much money would come in and what expenses would be. But I think they've had to use some of that to pay some of the high utility bills.
But we don't give them 60.
57. Well, half of it's us and half of it's
half that's the city, and that's their tax that we collect.
Right. I guess in my mind they weren't using that for anything else before. Now all of a sudden they are, and I thought it was in escrow or being held to pay for basketball and volleyball courts through our tourism commission.
I don't remember that.
Sports commission.
Don't remember that commitment. I remember some discussion about that. We designated them as our convention center and agreed to continue to charge that tax. And I think it's probably appropriate time to ask that question of how are things going and what do you plan to do, and should we continue to charge that tax?
Well, we'll invite them to come next, put them on the agenda next meeting. Anything else we need to talk about? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.